A former IBM systems consultant, he pioneered early AI initiatives and founded the Beyond Network and Myriad.social, platforms integrating AI for biomedical data and social content. As the co-founder of the Indonesian Blockchain Association, Pandu has raised over $6 million for ventures at the intersection of privacy, decentralization, and intelligence systems. Thank you so much for being here, Pandu. So Mona, on to you. I'll hand over.
Thank you very much, Asha. Hey guys, how are you doing?
Good.
Does anybody still hear something about AI? Because seriously, I mean, we're already doing this from like 9 o'clock this morning, so I can imagine that if you are here the whole day, that you think, my God, when are we going into, you know, the unconference, into the drinks, into the canopies, etc., etc. Well, I will tell you, we only take like 25 minutes. Shall we have a nice chat, right?
Yes.
So, all good. But before we go into that chat, I just want to say this lady next to me, she is a celebrity. Exactly. Why do I say this? Because she already started a few movements quite a few years ago. One of them was the blockchain movement.
Right.
The other one is the AI movement. And I've been listening almost the whole day about AI, about the adoption of AI, about the accessibility of AI, about education, etc., etc. But I think, and we discussed it a little bit, we haven't really heard about the evolution of AI. And I think, Pandu, it would be really good to hear your perspective about how did AI evolve from, 2008-ish onwards and till now.
Sure, what a coincidence. 2008 was the date I published my first paper on AI. This was an expert systems to help you write environmental impact report. It was in 2008. It was deep in the middle of AI winter. So it was actually, my professor at Institut Teknologi Pandu, an Indonesian institute, tried to shop it around, but didn't get any investors since obviously it was in the middle of the winter. Like it was very difficult to actually get interest on it. There's also some non-technical reasons. It's an environmental impact report. A lot of people actually, in some countries, do environmental impact reports just to get the signature instead of the report itself. So that's where I started, and it's super different. Like it's not Gen AI. An expert system is rules-based. Everything was written down in a language called Prolog. We actually spent months basically coding each possible use case into this Prolog, like this huge jumble. There's still actually a lot of AI projects out there that are doing this. Don't get me wrong. It's still actually a valid way of actually creating rules-based knowledge, creating a knowledge base. But obviously a lot of this has been overtaken by AI. Yeah, I mean, you guys know this. Like, you use ChatGPT, right?
Yeah, and Perplexity whenever I can, yes.
Of course. Drop?
Yeah, well, sometimes, but I'm more the Perplexity person because I travel a lot and I don't know where to go. So then, that's for me a very interesting way to, yeah.
That's a good use case. It's actually sort of like permeated the way we live right now. But if we recall, it didn't start. There was actually a lot of debates between actually having black box AI, such as the things that we train through machine learning, deep learning, and obviously a lot of the ChatGPT stuff as well. Like a lot of the LLM, large learning models, have ways of thinking that are opaque to us, and that's actually not 100% good. There have been ways to actually try to make it less opaque by introducing large reasoning models instead of LLMs. So the kind of models that say thinking, this is what I'm thinking, and then a response. It's still not exactly what my old expert systems used to do. An expert system, you know exactly why this decision was made, right? But models, obviously, if you run a model that is a machine learning, deep learning model, and you train it, it's actually easier to actually create something that sort of like is similar to reality, similar to the way a human mind works, even arguably. And it's basically the best way to actually do it right now. I do think AGI and artificial superintelligence will be achieved through a combination of what we have right now, of like, the Gen AI models, LLMs, LRMs, and something else. Maybe it would be an integration within it with expert systems. Like one of the things that the deep learning team in China did really well was to create a mixture of experts. So there's multiple LLMs basically that are controlled by an expert system that chooses which one to use. So you send in a question, the expert system determines, oh, this one's nice for this one's nice for that. So this mixture of experts model is a good way of actually determining that. There are scalability issues as well that were solved by the Chinese team, DeepSeek, but yeah, everyone's optimizing right now. The journey is still on.
Yeah, and I assume that it's still continuing, right?
It is. I think there's still debates regarding whether we're going to reach AGI pretty soon, if not already, by some definitions. Truthfully, if you go to like books on AI in 2020, those books are defining AGI as something that we already have. Like we will have AGI when a computer can write a song and create company ideas and set up like business transactions and think about like anticipate needs. We already have that. So by some definitions, AGI has been achieved. Same thing with Turing tests, right? Since Turing tests used to be, it's just, hey, what was it, an hour or two of discussions with an AI that manages to fool you that it's human. But now, it's actually lengthened. Not a lot of people know this, but the Turing grade capabilities, it's now a lot longer. It's 24 hours now. So it's not just 1 hour. So Nick Bostrom actually wrote about that. There's an update to like Kurzweil's tome. So basically, instead of singularity is near, singularity is nearer. Now, that means what we're creating right now, even though sometimes they look like toys, sometimes they're just for fun, but a lot of the things that we're doing right now is actually creating the basis of the next phase in our species intelligence. And I'm not saying this in a sci-fi way. These AI are our literal mind children. They are products of our culture. We train them based on everything that we write on the internet, right? There are pieces of us in these AIs, in the first AIs that will go to outer space, those pieces, even though they're tiny little pieces, are in these weights. I'm doing this. I'm mentioning all this just to note that the most important session, like all of the sessions are important, but this, for me, the most important session was security today. Like not even more important than my session. Since if you don't align these AIs correctly, then you'll end up with our mind children, which would actually not care about us. So that alignment is actually quite necessary. At the same time, I do believe that AI, the debate, needs to also go to the open. So I do not believe in like monolithic AI that is controlled by one company or even just several companies. I believe that AI should be free and accessible and be usable and trainable by a lot of startups. I believe that you guys out there, you can also build your own AI, not just your API wrappers or whatnot. Like build your own models, train your own models based on the scope that you know. If you're a botanist, focus on that, for example, right? Like your domain knowledge, translate that. Now, and that actually leads to basically how do we make an ecosystem of multiple very specific AIs that are experts in things and combine them in a way that would help humanity as a whole.
Yeah, and sorry to stop you there because I know you're super passionate.
Sorry about that.
And I know you can go on and on about this, but we don't have much time and we have other things to do as well. But that's great. Anyway, so there are a few things that you're passionate about, what I understand, right?
Right. Yeah.
And one of the things is you're a women entrepreneur, and you are, from Indonesia, and you are very successful over years. I mean, you have done a lot of businesses, you have closed a lot of deals, and you have worked in big companies, and you went the entrepreneurial way. So one of the things that, of course, this region is really, known for in principle is, of course, and the issues around financial inclusion, right? And I think that has also not been discussed that much during the day, and I think that is one of the things that you're super passionate about. So can you explain a little bit more about how AI can help in that area, but also what are the initiatives that you are taking to to get that to the women?
Right. So my primary initiative that I'm actually here for is a company I'm advising for. It's called MWX. MWX AI is a marketplace for AI products, and it actually allows small businesses to actually access the type of research abilities, the marketing abilities in terms of like AI insights that only Fortune 500 companies have. So it's launching in October, so this is all pre-launch, you understand? This is actually something I'm trying to do since we need to level the playing field. I think that's actually the main incentive for a small business to be using AI is to compete with the big boys, right? I mean, is it compete on funding? Is it compete on basically having a better product market fit? All of these can be achieved with the help of AI tools. Now, the marketplace that we're building allows vendors to be part of it as well. Allows people to buy like a tool on this marketplace with crypto, if need be, can also buy with fiat. So it's a global marketplace. We're not launching it here in Indonesia per se, it's in Singapore. But yeah, that's one thing that I bring to the table. Personally, you mentioned women.
Yes.
I do believe that here's the thing, like the internet is a wide open space, there's no genders on the internet. And I think AI is enabling a lot of scalability, like in terms of like there's a lot of solopreneurs these days. And solopreneurs are people who have just a ChatGPT subscription and build stuff, or a Cursor subscription and build stuff, right? And you know what? All of the issues of gender, all of the issues of having people, being discriminated against, that doesn't happen if you're a solopreneur, because you wouldn't discriminate against yourself, right? So that's.
And if technology is not biased, then it wouldn't happen either, right?
This is another discussion. Bias in AI, of course, is another discussion. I wouldn't get into the weeds of that. That's more like an academic discussion. But yeah, I think at least the enablement of a solopreneur, whether female or male, with these technologies is actually empowering.
Cool. And if you look at your life up until now and your journey, right? If you look at the audience and think about what you've been doing so far, what were the real challenges when you, well, first of all, worked probably in IBM in a big company and all that kind of stuff, and then going into the entrepreneurship and doing all those kind of works. I mean, what would you give the audience to think about?
Well, I left IBM back in 2017. I was there for 6 years, and it was hard the first time I left, obviously, because the startup world is entirely different, and I had to start something from scratch. It's a company called Blockchain Zoo, the first blockchain consulting company in the region, and it was difficult to work in a way that personal expectations are different from professional expectations. And at IBM, I didn't have to sort of like chase people. In startups, yes, I did. Now, I think going back to AI can even help with that. I have basically a ton of AI tools that are actually helping me follow up everything. Like my glasses is AI. I'm taking a video of you guys right now. I mean, this is going into sort of like my AI.
So she knows exactly who is looking at his phone.
So no one is. Okay. So except for Mark. Sorry, Mark. Yeah, I mean, I think augmentation is the name of the game. There are challenges in the startup world, and especially for someone who's coming from enterprise and moving into the startup space and trying to make everything more enterprise. What you want is actually make your life easier. You don't want your company to become IBM. No, of course not. You want it to be right-sized and appropriate to the way you work. And you want that way to work to be like, like you can't force everyone to work the way you do, but you can have AI basically mediate that between you and other people. And that's what I.
And do you think that from a future perspective, is AI going to help small companies? Because you mentioned a couple of times about the trust, and we have mentioned that before as well. If you're a small company, you probably don't have the real resources to, adopt AI. You don't probably have the knowledge to adopt AI. You probably don't have the trust to actually sell your product, because the investor round has talked a lot about that as well. So, do you think how can we go about that?
I think it's a matter of actually getting out there and trying something out that provides everything in one place. It's a confusing ecosystem. I know. There's you go to ChatGPT, it's offering a bunch of things. You go to Perplexity, it's offering a bunch of things, right? We're not aiming to be them. We're aiming to be sort of like a way that is like a portal for, really focus on small businesses, small to medium enterprises, and there's even sort of like a helper chatbot that allows you to sort of talk to it, and it basically suggests modules to put in, and all these modules are also entrepreneur friendly, and using that as a basis and integrating that with your systems is straightforward and a lot easier. Then that's the aim. User interface and user experience, right? That's it's hard to tell you guys, hey, I have good UX. I can't do that. I can only prove to you by you trying the application. So just once we release in October, you'll see a lot of the optimizations that we've created. One of them is the agent thing that I mentioned, but there are other things as well.
And I have one more question for you in the sense of something that was said in the last panel, because that was more about human strategy and business strategy. And of course, you are relatively, I would say, all round, but definitely also technical. I would say, there were a couple of statements made, like, there is always a human behind either the AI or the tech, right?
Okay.
What is your view on that?
I don't, honestly, from a security perspective, I agree. From a scalability perspective, that's not going to scale. Having a human always in the loop has an issue in terms of competition. If your company requires AI to always have a human in the loop, 100% of transactions, it'll be that much slower compared to competitors. Now, that is not to say that a prompt log cannot be audited. In fact, it needs to be audited by human eyes. But that's not a human in the loop. That's a human outside of the loop taking a look at the loop. The loop needs to actually be able to run. A human supervisor, a human auditor, I think is a good idea, but a human in the loop that decides whether something happens, I don't think that's going to be scalable. I don't think remember, we're all here for customer expectations. Users have certain levels of expectations that have entirely changed. They've seen ChatGPT. They know what they know what AI can do, right? So if this actually slows down SLAs, you're going to be outcompeted. So that's my view. I do agree from where it came from. I agree with him in terms of why this needs to be done, because security and safety. But I think that's what I think.
Cool. Maybe a reaction from one of the guys. Actually, Mark, do you want to react, because that was something from your session? What do you think of her reaction on this topic? Because you were quite a bit like, yes, there needs to be always a human in the loop. But actually, I think Pandu has a different thought process, right?
It's a different opinion. It's just
okay, opinion. Sorry.
You invited me, so.
well, hey, excuse me. We're behind closed doors. No worries. There's no social media. It's all fake. Please.
I'm taking off the glasses.
Yes,
Well, maybe it's a preference answer. The kind of businesses or the kind of world that I want to grow in, or the kind of collaboration I want to have. I do enjoy my collaboration with AI and how it helps me. But I think I shared with you yesterday some of the best things that probably the best thing that has happened in Slash, from my perspective, probably not from the other ones, that we had two couples getting married. They met in the company and they got married and they're happy now. And personally, I don't want to remove that aspect of the business, because I think it's such a pride and such a happy moment when those things happen. So the reason I started with my founder at that time, Slash, was to also decide who I want to work with. I never thought, although I've heard, a few days ago, that the first solo unicorn will happen around 2027. So the first person that will be alone with the business would be valued at $1 billion. Will happen around 2027. I'm not so sure if I'm happy or sad about this, to be honest. I think good for that person, but it sounds like a very lonely journey. So I don't know if that's yeah. Maybe it's more emotional and less pragmatic on how things are evolving.
And it's also more the real human and ethical side of it in a certain way, right? So, anybody else? Because I know we are already horrible late with the unconference, and I don't want to keep people too long waiting. So, does anybody else have any questions for Pandu? Okay, well, enough questions. Can somebody please let's the lady in the back, because I think she never had. You wanted a question there, right? Because I don't think you asked a question before, so I want to give you the chance.
Yeah, I just wanted to share my perspective on the same question that just was answered. I work a lot with customer support leaders, and I can see that they divide it into two groups. In customer support world, there is an opinion that we should automate 100% of customer service, because it seems like it's a very easy, it's a very repeatable scenario. But there is another group that absolutely doesn't recognize AI as a potential, because they want to keep customer support very, very personalized and very unique and very human, especially in B2B, because in some products that are very customizable, you want to have a human who will look through everything and give you a recommendation. So, and basically right now building a business, I'm helping to solve both problems, to help with AI to those who want to implement AI in customer support, and those who really want to have human in the loop, I help them to hire best talents who can do that. And my question, just continue that, what do you think, what's your opinion on AI in customer service? Would you be in group 1 or group 2?
Yeah, okay, so here's the thing, when I said that human in the loop is not something that's sustainable, I do highlight that it's actually something that in the future is going to be not so, well, that's what sustainable means, right? Like when we're talking 2 years out, 3 years out, 4 years out, obviously AI technologies are improving at lightning speed. We've reached the knee of the singularity, so to speak, right? So by this time next year, there's not going to be even a debate. Will AI be able to have those types of personal relations? And they will. They will probably be having a lot more personal relationships with our customers and understand them even better than human. is it good? I mean, me as a human, I'm a human being. I don't have like silicone in my blood. I feel bad that that's going to happen, but that is actually, in my opinion, we're on that trajectory. So yeah, to answer your question, I'm in that team of, AI customer service in the long term is going to be 100%.
You could have a relationship with an AI later on.
That's also true. We haven't even discussed that.
Yeah. Okay, there were a few more questions here. Yeah.
Hi. Again. Yes, so...
We don't have much time.
Yes. So you said the following. You said we are, as humans, we're trying to make our work as easy, as simple as possible to make sure that we're that we just don't struggle, right? And then we can do our job faster, quicker, and all that. But we're going towards that trajectory where AI agents within the next 5 years might take over most of the jobs, right? It's a trajectory that's there. It's not fantasy, but it's going that way. Now my question is, since we are always trying to make things simple, what do you think about the statement that we are undervaluing struggle in life as a human perspective?
Oh, okay. That's a very deep question. I don't know if I have the philosophy chops to answer that, but the idea behind having, yes, we are actually going to have replacement of jobs. It's already being done, it's happening. Now, I come from the crypto field, right? And I know a lot of people see crypto as just gambling and whatever, but it's actually a splendid way to sort of fund things that you love, and these funded things can actually have the capacity to be adopted widely and even change the world. Now, I think there's going to be more of that, since I haven't even spoken about the fact that AI can also create startups. Solopreneurs is just one step. The next step is the creation of startups by AI, ran by large companies, and they can fundraise using crypto. Now, is that a bad thing? It sounds terrible, right? But at the same time, if it creates value, if it creates more value for humanity than humans creating startups, why don't we invest in them? This is not my startup, it's not related to MWX, this is just me thinking a few years down the line. But I think humans might end up being investors, might end up having UBI out of this, allocating funds to actually push for more innovation, from these data centers. We might end up pushing into the Kardashev scale just by doing that, just by pushing into funding these, maybe not crypto, maybe something else, investments. And I think that's also a skill. And that's also a very human skill, because you meet the people, you meet the stuff, you hold the actual physical objects. The thing that will never, I just got a haircut a couple of days ago. I don't think robots might be able to handle that, but not soon. There's still a niche there. I think focusing on those niches, instead of thinking that it's never going to happen, is the way to go, and the only way to go. Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, cool. Was there one more question? Okay, this is the last one then. Here.
No, it's not really. It was just more of a kind of addition. So I think that what he was talking about value is what we're defining as value, right? It's could be some sort of output of something that allows you to do something. But I think that what he was maybe asking about, the value of the struggle, is something that's much more intangible and for a conversation on the side, right? So that's the thing, is we talk about hairdressers, and sometimes I talk and speak to people who are human guides out in mountains, all these sorts of things where all these billionaire investors are going, that's not going to go away. But I think that there's something satisfying beyond, there's a great Zen, kind of menial labor, task satisfaction, but I think that a lot of humans get a lot of satisfaction around problem solving. So it's wondering where you see that beyond the Kurzweil horizon, where it's like, where do we get that intellectual kind of satisfaction through the struggle and pain of going through something and then solving problems, even if they're not necessarily as, I guess, smooth as if it was augmented by AI.
There's one sci-fi author called I. Banks, God rest his soul, who died a few years ago, and he wrote about a culture called The Culture, and it's a post-human culture. It's roughly based on like post-singularity humanity, and in that culture, one of the best ways to actually have humans problem solve is games. Now this doesn't sound very interesting, obviously, but like the first novel is called Player of Games. It's really good. You need to read that. But the thing about humanity will sort of like create a new amusements for itself. I mean, imagine 100 years ago, like or look, 100 years ago there are already games. Like people who didn't have access to anything else, didn't have access to problem solving because they're poor or because they're super rich, like royalty, like they play. And I think problem solving will probably morph towards that, and we'll have.
They are all miserable though.
I sincerely hope not. And again, we're thinking about post-singularity, right? So this is not something I can like, this is going to happen unless, Elon is too angry at Trump and just like blows up everything, and everything just like collapses. I think the singularity is coming. After singularity, I think we will still have our amusements. Problem solving will still be done, but it's in a different context. Until then, we can still have our own ways of actually creating ways to make value. And okay. So one more thing. Like I think now another thing that AI would still need is interactions with us. And that yes, we would be sort of like at one point of the singularity, when it hits superintelligence, when it hits that curve, we would be as ants to them, right? But at the same time, we are ants who built them. So like, if we instill within like alignment, and this is a discussion that's being had, if AI alignment actually has that appreciation towards us, the lesser gods of AI, I think that would be something that would be appreciated by the future silicon-based race. He wants to add, can he add?
But it's a chicken and egg kind of story, which you're
I
saying
mean,
now.
It's a good point, because if you're looking at satisfaction, the gladiators of yesteryear's past.
Okay.
Sorry,
Canapé is that conversation.
the gamers of today have a different type. I guess as we progress, it just shifts, right? And that's the human value of the human. How we used to be humans in the age of AI. And I guess that's just the shift that happened in the age of no computers create AI.
Yeah, Hunger Games. Looking forward to that.
Are you?
Yeah, well, then we're now going to play games with workshops. Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to have a photo session? Photographers?
Thank you so much.
One round of applause for this really quiet one from this fireside chat. Thank you so much, Mona and Pandu. Okay, so we